Welcome to Chess Deep Study. Today, we are going to talk about one of the checkmate patterns, the Legall's mate. The Legall's mate is a checkmate pattern named after the French chess player Sir de Legall, the commonly used pattern in his games, since it is actually an opening trap and also known as Legall's trap. E4, E5, Knight F3, D6, Bishop C4, Bishop G4, Knight C3. White is playing an Italian opening. Black is a Philidor defense, but Bishop G4 is bad move here because it delays castling and develops knight longer than normal. G6. Bad move. Legall's mate starts in this most familiar position. Black attempts to pin white's knight to his queen. It's not very clever, in part because white can play h2 to h3 to force black to either retreat his bishop or capture the knight. And it will waste time in either event. Anyway, with the move that follows the pin, black created an additional problem. White won't mind playing knight takes e5 and losing his queen, because after knight takes e5, we can play, after bishop d1, we can play bishop f7 check, forcing king e7 and then knight d5 checkmate. See how the knight and the bishop are working together. Consider the work they are doing one piece at a time. The e5 knight seals off the squares on either side of the king. The bishop takes care of the squares behind and in front of it. And then the knight on d5, attacks the king and the f6 square. It is a very quick mate by 3 minor pieces, which is legend. This time, let's see the Legall's mate in black view. E4, E5, D3. This is a very passive opening and blocks off the light square bishop. Knight F6, Bishop G5. Again, the bishop is pinning the knight on F6, which is a sign of the Legall's mate. Bishop C5, Knight E2. Knight E2, a mistake move since it blocks in his F1 bishop. And now he had added a familiar pin to the enemy knight on F6. It is an Italian opening with reserve color, so black plays the standard knight takes e4, leaving his queen exposed to capture. If he plays d takes e4, then queen takes g5, winning a pawn. If bishop takes d8, then bishop takes f2 mate. This time Legall's mate with 2 minor pieces in 5 moves. This is a very powerful mate, but of course not very common. Legall's mate is a very quick mate in the opening move, but it is very unlikely to occur in your games. But the idea it represents is common. A knight jumping out of the relative pin, appearing to sacrifice the queen behind it, but then creating a mate threat that wins material. This is generally known as Legall's sacrifice. Sacrifice a queen first, then get it back later. Knight takes e5, bishop takes d1. If d takes e5, then queen takes g4, winning a piece. If bishop takes d1, then bishop b5 check. And his only move is to interposing his queen to d7. Then we take that, and he needs to move his king to d8. And now knight takes f7 check, king takes d7, and now there's a white strike with a knight takes rook, carrying out the other end of the fork. No, he doesn't need to do that yet, because the rook is smothered on h8. It isn't going anywhere. Instead, white takes the opportunity to play king takes bishop at the other end of the board. And there's still knight takes rook waiting to be played on the next move. King takes d1. If knight takes h8, then of course he can get the bishop into safety. If king takes d1, king e8, knight takes h8, and now white is up. Actually, rook and the knight and the pawn. How do we use the idea of Legall's mate? By now we get that point. When we see the relative pin, like white has here against the knight on f6. Consider the consequences. If the knight breaks out the pin and starts an attack against a king at the other end of the board. And I wish you to pause and think for a few seconds if you can find the best move here. Well, of course, we break out the pin. Bishop takes d8, bishop b4 check. White has to interpose his queen, and black has the familiar gain of peace. Queen d2, bishop takes d2, king takes d2, king takes d8. White is winning. Black is winning. The idea to unexpectedly move a pin piece is quite common in chess. An important lesson here is that we shouldn't assume a piece won't move just because it's pinned, unless it's pinned to the king, of course. Legall's mate is a good example of this. And yet again, I want you to pause the video and think for a few seconds if you find a move that will be crushing. Hopefully you have found it. Of course, we want to break the pin with knight takes e5. The pin is now broken. Why sacrifice the queen? Now, bishop b5 check. But this time he can play c6. And you notice that black has 3 ways to block the check. 1. Knight d7, which will lose material after bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, knight takes d7, king takes d7, and knight takes or king takes d1. Well, of course, he can't play queen d7, so he chooses to play c6. Black has to block the bishop check, but after d takes c6, black is helpless against the potential discover checks. If a6, then there will be the discover check with c7. A takes b5, c takes d8 equals queen check, rook takes d8, knight takes d1, white is a knight up. Now, if queen c7, then c takes b7 check, king d8, knight takes f7 checkmate. And this is the end of the video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe Chess Deep Study. Bye.